Before lockdown came along, South Africa was recording just more than 1,000 gang-related murders a year. And that's if you consider the police's crime statistics for the 2019-2020 financial year. They show that the vast majority of those killed lived in the Western Cape. But interestingly, when the first hard lockdown came in March last year, the following 3 months only saw about 63 gang-related murders. This trend was short-lived, though, and since then we've seen at least 200 gang killings every 3 months. What do these figures tell us about lockdown, and do they stop gangsters from running riot? Well, we're asking criminologist Dr. Guy Lamb to help us answer these questions. Guy, thank you for being available for us today. It's a crime-led show, and so we're trying to get to the core of some of the issues plaguing us. What did that hard lockdown say about fewer gang killings?
Well, I mean, generally what happened during the hard lockdown, and thankfully the police have given us some quite detailed data about it, is that there was a significant reduction in pretty much all categories of violent crime: murder, attempted murder, robbery with aggravating circumstances, kind of robberies at residential premises. So, it wasn't just gang violence that happened. But if we're looking at gang violence, I mean, the sort of data that the police have put together is they don't give us the entire number, but they give us a good sample. And so the figures that you mentioned really are really interesting, because of the sample they give us, kind of gang murders were like 53 for the Western Cape for that particular quarter. But if we compare it to the quarter that's just the same quarter for the year that's just gone by, so 2021, so the quarter, April to June 2021, the sort of numbers they're giving us of gang murders is sort of up to 187. Obviously, it would be more than that because that's a sample. But I mean, what lockdown is showing us is, as the effects it had on other violent crime, was that, there was people were confined to their place of residences. There was less movement around. There was a lot more police visibility. But also there was reports of gang truces being secured. So not all gangs obviously did this, but for the hard lockdown period, there were reports of certain gangs agreeing not to fight each other, to have a kind of temporary ceasefire. So these combinations of factors seem to have had an impact. But what we saw after hard lockdown is greater movement. Also, opportunities emerged for certain gangs to try and seize other gang territories, and using violence as a way to try and move in, using violence to try and consolidate issues. Of course, we've also seen what happened during the hard lockdown. It was the gang economy was very negatively affected. So after lockdown, there's more increased competition and conflict between the gangs in order to try and secure the lost income, try and kind of monopolize on what happened previously and try and secure new territory. So that's the dynamics we're looking at here.
Guy, why were they calling for truces during the hard lockdown? That's interesting.
Well, I mean, they're calling for truces because it was a sort of realization that there was greater policing around, and as a result, with more visible police around, there's chances of being arrested. But also, I think there was some commitment from gangs that, given the lockdown, it was having quite a significant impact on the livelihoods of the residences and the areas they were at. So there was a socioeconomic aspect to this, but yeah, so it was around that violence wasn't good for business, but also it was the lockdown, the gangs played some sort of positive role during that period as well, in terms of helping community members who'd lost a lot during lockdown.
Interesting. All right, thank you so much. As always, that was criminologist Dr. Guy Lamb. Thank you so much for your time this morning.